let's talk about something that nobody puts on their vision board. Nobody is cutting out magazine pictures of a laundromat and gluing them next to their dream car. Nobody is journaling about their passion for portable toilet rental. Nobody lies awake at night, heart racing with excitement, whispering to themselves, someday, I'm going to own a car wash. And yet, the people who own laundromats, portable toilet companies, and car washes are, with remarkable and slightly irritating consistency, millionaires. Not the flashy, Instagram-worthy, private jet kind of millionaires that the internet has convinced you are the only legitimate kind. The quiet, deeply comfortable, never checks the price at a restaurant, paid-off house at 52 kind of millionaires. The kind who built genuine, durable wealth not by riding a rocket ship to the moon, but by methodically, boringly, reliably extracting profit from businesses that most people are too excited about sexier opportunities to bother looking at. This video is about those businesses, specifically 6 of them. Before we get into the list, let's establish something important about what makes a business genuinely wealth-building rather than just revenue-generating. Because the distinction matters enormously and gets almost no attention in the entrepreneurship content that dominates YouTube, which is heavily weighted toward the exciting end of the business spectrum at the expense of the profitable end. The businesses that reliably make people millionaires share a specific set of characteristics that have nothing to do with how interesting they are to talk about at dinner parties. They serve needs that don't go away. Not wants, not trends, not discretionary spending that evaporates the moment the economy sneezes, but genuine, recurring, non-negotiable human needs. They operate in markets that are large enough to support a profitable business, but unglamorous enough that the competition hasn't been flooded by every ambitious person with a laptop and a podcast. They generate cash, not revenue, not gross profit, but actual cash that lands in the owner's account with reassuring regularity. They can be systematized and operated without the owner's constant personal involvement, which is the specific feature that separates a business from a job with extra steps. And they tend to build equity. The value of the business itself increases over time, creating wealth not just through the cash it generates, but through the asset it represents. The 6 businesses in this video hit all of these marks. Some of them will surprise you. Some of them will make you slightly uncomfortable with how unsexy they are. At least one of them will make you think, wait, people actually get rich doing that? Yes, they do. Consistently. With far less drama and far more reliability than the businesses getting all the attention. Let's meet them. Chapter 1. The laundromat, the closest thing to a legal money printer that smells like fabric softener. Let's start with the business that has been quietly minting millionaires for decades, while everyone else was busy chasing more interesting opportunities. The laundromat. Yes, the laundromat. The place you went in college when your apartment didn't have a washer and you had somehow accumulated 3 weeks of laundry, despite owning what appeared to be a normal quantity of clothing. The place with the plastic chairs, the daytime television nobody is actually watching, and the guy who's been folding the same shirt for 45 minutes. That place is a wealth-building machine, and the people who own it are, depending on the market and the specific operation, making anywhere from $50,000 to $300,000 per year in net profit from a business they may visit twice a week for a combined total of 4 hours. Here's why the laundromat is the first business on this list and arguably the purest example of the boring business millionaire phenomenon. The demand is indestructible. People need clean clothes. This is not a trend. This is not a discretionary purchase that consumers cut when times get tight. This is not a service that gets disrupted by an app or replaced by artificial intelligence or made obsolete by changing consumer preferences. People needed clean clothes in 1950, they need clean clothes in 2026, and they will need clean clothes in 2075. The demand for laundry services is about as close to a guaranteed permanent market as exists in the consumer economy. More specifically, approximately 35 million Americans live in rental housing without in-unit laundry. Apartments, older rental homes, shared housing of various kinds, and depend on either laundromats or shared building laundry rooms for their washing needs. This population is not shrinking. In most major metropolitan areas, the combination of housing costs, older building stock, and apartment living trends means the laundromat-dependent population is stable to growing. The recession resistance of laundromat demand deserves specific emphasis. When the economy contracts and consumers cut spending, they cut dining out, they cut entertainment, they cut clothing purchases, they cut vacations. They do not cut laundry. In fact, laundromat revenue has historically been counter-cyclical, meaning it tends to be stable or mildly positive even in recessions, because consumers who might previously have used a drop-off laundry service or bought a new item of clothing rather than washing an old one return to the self-service laundromat when budgets tighten. The laundromat is a recession hedge wearing the disguise of a mundane service business. The cash flow economics are extraordinary. Here's the financial structure of the laundromat that makes it genuinely remarkable as a wealth-building vehicle. It is one of the few consumer service businesses that operates on a fully cash prepaid model with 0 accounts receivable, 0 bad debt, 0 payment processing delays, and 0 collection problems. When someone puts money into a washing machine, the transaction is complete before the service is delivered. There is no invoice. There is no net 30 payment term. There is no customer who promises to pay next week and then doesn't answer the phone. The money is in the machine, now physically in the coin vault or electronically in the payment processor, before the water starts running. For a business owner who has experienced the cash flow challenges of service businesses with delayed payment cycles, this feature of the laundromat model is so valuable it almost seems unfair. The specific financial profile of a well-run laundromat looks approximately like this, though numbers vary significantly by market and location. Annual gross revenue for a mid-sized laundromat in a reasonable market: $200,000 to $400,000. Operating expenses: rent, utilities, equipment maintenance, supplies, part-time labor. Insurance typically runs 65% to 70% of revenue, leaving a net operating income of $60,000 to $130,000 per year. The specific expense breakdown matters. Rent is the largest and most variable cost, utilities are the second largest and relatively predictable, and labor is minimal because the self-service model means customers do most of the actual work. The return on investment for a laundromat purchase or build-out is typically in the range of 20% to 35% annually on the initial investment, a range that would be exceptional for any business and is extraordinary for a business that requires minimal owner involvement once established. The semi-passive reality: here's the feature of the laundromat business that elevates it from a good business to a genuine wealth-building vehicle, the degree to which it can be operated without the owner's continuous presence. A self-service laundromat, once established with proper systems, requires approximately 10 to 20 hours of owner attention per week in the early stages and can be reduced to 5 to 10 hours per week, or less, with hired management, once the operation is running smoothly. The tasks that require attention are specific and manageable: collecting and counting revenue, performing routine maintenance or coordinating with maintenance contractors, ordering supplies, addressing the occasional equipment issue, and monitoring the operation through cameras and POS data. The modern laundromat has been significantly upgraded from the coin-operated machines of previous decades. Card and app-based payment systems produce detailed revenue data that the owner can monitor remotely. Security cameras allow visual monitoring without physical presence. Preventive maintenance contracts with commercial laundry equipment companies reduce the time and expertise required to keep machines running. The result is a business that generates $60,000 to $130,000 per year in owner net income while consuming a fraction of the time that a conventional small business requires. The multiple expansion strategy, from one to many. Here's where the laundromat transforms from a good income source into a genuine million-dollar wealth-building strategy: the multiplication model. The owner of one well-run laundromat earning $80,000 per year net is doing well. The owner of 3 laundromats earning $80,000 each is earning $240,000 per year from businesses that collectively require perhaps 20 hours per week of attention or less with a manager, and whose combined asset value, if sold at the typical 3 to 5 times annual net income multiple, is between $720,000 and $1,200,000. The multiplication is achievable because the systems established for the first laundromat, the maintenance relationships, the payment systems, the operational processes, the supplier relationships, transfer almost entirely to subsequent locations. The marginal cost of adding a second laundromat is primarily the capital investment in the new location. The operating system is largely already built. Many of the laundromat millionaires whose stories are documented in the business ownership community followed exactly this path: one location to establish the model, reinvest the profits to fund the second, use the cash flow from 2 locations to fund the third, and arrive at a portfolio of 3 to 5 laundromats generating 6-figure annual net income from an asset portfolio worth several $1,000,000. What it actually takes honesty requires acknowledging what the laundromat business actually demands, because the semi-passive income framing can create unrealistic expectations. The capital requirement is real. Building out a new laundromat, equipment, leasehold improvements, signage, initial supplies typically cost $200,000 to $500,000 depending on size and market. Buying an existing laundromat costs less in upfront construction, but requires careful due diligence on equipment, condition, lease terms, and the accuracy of the revenue numbers the seller presents. SBA loans are commonly used to finance laundromat acquisitions and have been used successfully by many first-time business owners in this space. Location is critical in a way that no amount of operational excellence can fully compensate for. A laundromat in a high-density area with limited in-unit laundry availability and good visibility and parking is a fundamentally different business from a laundromat in a location that lacks these features. The location decision, made before any equipment is purchased or lease is signed, is the most important decision in the laundromat business. Equipment maintenance requires either personal mechanical aptitude or reliable contractor relationships. Commercial washing machines and dryers are durable but not indestructible, and a laundromat with multiple machines out of service loses revenue directly proportional to the fraction of capacity offline. Owners who can perform basic maintenance themselves have a significant cost advantage over those entirely dependent on outside contractors. None of these requirements are disqualifying. They're the normal operating demands of a real business that generates real returns. The point is not that the laundromat is effortless. It's that the effort required is modest relative to the returns generated, which is the specific feature that makes it a wealth-building vehicle rather than merely a job. Chapter 2. The Car Wash, the business that prints money. Every time it rains, and when it doesn't, here's a business that has undergone a quiet revolution in the last decade that has transformed it from a moderately interesting small business into one of the most aggressively acquired and consistently profitable business models in the entire small to medium business landscape, the car wash. Specifically, the express exterior conveyor car wash, the tunnel-based subscription model operation that has been spreading across suburban America with the patient, unstoppable energy of a business that has figured out exactly how to extract maximum value from a simple, recurring consumer need. The reason the car wash is on this list, and the reason sophisticated investors, including private equity firms, have been buying car washes at a pace that has driven acquisition multiples to levels previously reserved for technology businesses, is that the modern express car wash model has achieved something that most service businesses spend their entire existence trying to accomplish and never quite manage. It has converted a one-time transaction into a recurring subscription revenue stream applied to a service that customers need continuously, delivered through infrastructure that has high upfront costs but extraordinarily low marginal costs per wash. The subscription model revolution. Let me explain what happened to the car wash business in the last 10 years because it's one of the more elegant business model innovations in the consumer service space, and it's the specific reason the car wash has graduated from decent small business to institutional investor-grade cash flow machine. The traditional car wash operated on a simple transaction model. Customer arrives, pays for a wash, drives through, leaves. Revenue was entirely dependent on customer frequency, which was entirely dependent on weather, season, the customer's mood, and whether they happened to drive past the car wash on a day when their car was dirty enough to motivate a stop. The business had high revenue variability, no customer relationship, and no ability to predict next month's income with any confidence. The express exterior model introduced the unlimited wash subscription, a monthly membership, typically priced between $20 and $40 per month, that gives the member unlimited washes at that location or chain. The customer pays once per month regardless of how many times they wash. The car wash gets guaranteed monthly revenue regardless of whether the customer actually shows up. The economics of this model are extraordinary. A car wash with 1,000 active monthly members at an average of $25 per month generates $25,000 in recurring monthly revenue before a single non-member pays for a wash. With 2,000 members at $30 average, the recurring monthly base is $60,000, $720,000 annually, from subscriptions alone, before accounting for non-member wash revenue. The marginal cost of serving an additional member wash, water, chemistry, electricity, wear, is approximately $1 to $3 per wash, meaning that the subscription revenue, even if every member washes twice a week, is highly profitable. The subscription model also produces a customer behavior that the car wash owner finds unexpectedly delightful. Members, because they've prepaid for unlimited washes, wash their cars more frequently than non-members. Frequent washing is good for the car wash because it normalizes the visit, increases customer engagement with the brand, and makes it more likely the member renews the following month. The more a member uses their subscription, the more they feel they're getting value from it, and the more likely they are to continue paying for it. The business model and customer psychology align in the same direction. The financial profile: a well-located express exterior car wash with an established membership base generates revenues that most people significantly underestimate when they first encounter the numbers. A mid-sized operation, a single tunnel location with 2,000 to 3,000 members plus non-member traffic, typically generates $1.2 million to $2.5 million in annual gross revenue. Operating expenses: labor, chemicals, water, utilities, equipment maintenance, rent or debt service on the real estate, typically run 50% to 60% of revenue, leaving net operating income of $480,000 to $1 million per year for a single well-run location. These numbers are why private equity has become obsessed with the car wash industry. A business generating $500,000 to $1 million in annual net income from a single location, with subscription-based revenue visibility in a market with genuine barriers to entry, is an extraordinary asset by any metric. The acquisition multiples paid for established car washes with strong membership bases have reached 6 to 10 times EBITDA, levels that reflect the institutional recognition of the model's quality. For the individual investor and operator, the car wash represents a specific opportunity. The capital and operational complexity of the model creates barriers to entry that prevent the market from becoming fully saturated by small operators, while the returns justify the initial investment for those willing to make it. The capital requirements and financing. Here's the honest conversation about what it actually costs to enter the car wash business, because the extraordinary returns are accompanied by extraordinary upfront investment requirements. Building a new express exterior car wash, land, construction, tunnel equipment, site improvements typically costs $3 million to $6 million for a full-featured operation. This is not a business you enter with a small business loan and a dream. It requires either significant personal capital, sophisticated commercial real estate financing, investor partnerships, or the purchase of an existing operation. The existing operation purchase is typically the more accessible entry point for individual investors. A car wash generating $400,000 in annual net income, sold at a 5 times multiple, costs $2 million. An SBA loan can finance a significant portion of that purchase price, and the cash flow of the business itself services the debt while still providing meaningful owner income. The alternative entry point for investors with less capital: the smaller in-bay automatic wash, the single bay unit where the car stays stationary and the equipment moves around it, which can be acquired or built for $250,000 to $500,000 and generates more modest but still meaningful returns. The in-bay automatic doesn't have the subscription model potential of the Tunnel Express, but it's a legitimate entry-level car wash investment that can be grown into or used to generate capital for a larger operation. The location and market analysis. Here's what the sophisticated car wash investor and the private equity firms that have been studying this market intensively knows about location that the casual observer doesn't. The car wash business is a traffic count business first, everything else second. A car wash lives or dies on the volume of vehicles that pass its location on a daily basis, the visibility of the entrance from that traffic flow, and the ease of the turn-in. A car wash on a road with 30,000 vehicles per day, with a visible entrance and an easy left turn-in, will outperform a car wash on a road with 15,000 vehicles per day in every measurable metric, regardless of how the operations compare. Location selection in the car wash business is approximately 60% of the business decision. The demographic profile of the surrounding market matters secondarily. Higher income markets support higher membership prices and have higher new vehicle rates that correlate with car washing frequency. But the traffic count trumps demographics in most cases. A high traffic location in a middle income market will generally outperform a low traffic location in a wealthy market. The competitive landscape matters because car wash markets can become oversaturated in ways that damage all participants. The intelligent car wash investor analyzes the existing wash locations within a 3 to 5 mile radius, the population density that those locations are serving, and the capacity of the market to support an additional location before committing to a site. Why? This business keeps growing. Here's the macro trend that makes the car wash business attractive beyond its current fundamentals. The number of registered vehicles in the United States continues to grow. The average age of vehicles on the road continues to increase, meaning people are maintaining their existing vehicles longer, and the cultural norm of regular car washing continues to strengthen as new car owners adopt the subscription model and maintain the habit. The car wash industry has also benefited from the transition from wand wash and self-service bays, which require labor and effort from the customer, to the frictionless express exterior model where the customer drives in, stays in the car, and drives out clean in 4 minutes. Reducing friction in a consumer service almost always expands the market, and the express exterior model has expanded the car wash market by converting irregular washers into regular subscribers. The business that seemed like a commodity, car washing, how differentiated can it be, has revealed itself through the subscription model innovation to be a surprisingly defensible, surprisingly scalable, surprisingly lucrative operation. The people who understood this early and built or acquired express car wash operations in the 2015 to 2020 window built wealth at a rate that surprised even them. The window hasn't closed, but the best locations in many markets are getting harder to find, which is itself evidence of how attractive the model has proven. Chapter 3. The self-storage facility, the business that profits from the fact that Americans own too much stuff. Here's a business that has outperformed the S&P 500 over the last 20 years, survived every recession in that period with minimal revenue disruption, attracted the attention of some of the most sophisticated real estate investors in the world, and owes its entire existence to a single, enduring, magnificently reliable feature of American consumer culture. People accumulate more stuff than their homes can contain, and then pay monthly fees to store the excess indefinitely rather than deal with it. Self-storage is not a glamorous business. The product is a metal box. The customer service interaction is approximately 3 minutes per customer per month, automated in most modern facilities. The marketing strategy is essentially be visible from a road and appear in Google Maps. The competitive differentiation in most markets is primarily price and location. There is nothing about self-storage that generates enthusiasm at a cocktail party or inspires a TED Talk. And yet the self-storage industry generates approximately $40 billion in annual revenue in the United States, has produced returns that would be the envy of most technology investors if those returns came from a more exciting sector, and has created generational wealth for the families and investors who recognized, decades before it became conventional, wisdom that Americans' relationship with physical possessions was a permanent economic force worth positioning around. Why people use self-storage and why they never leave. Here's the demand dynamic that makes self-storage such a reliable business. The reasons people rent storage units are almost universally situations of life transition: moving, downsizing, divorce, death of a family member, temporary housing situations, business inventory overflow, that create an urgent, immediate need for storage that the customer solves by renting a unit and then simply never gets around to solving more permanently. The average self-storage tenant stays for approximately 14 months. This is the industry average. The actual distribution is more interesting. A significant portion of tenants stay for much shorter periods, the genuine temporary users who are between houses or managing a specific transition. But a substantial portion stays for years, sometimes a decade or more, paying monthly fees that often exceed the replacement value of the items they're storing, because the activation energy required to deal with the storage unit is perpetually lower priority than everything else in their lives. This behavioral pattern, The tendency to solve the storage problem temporarily and then allow the temporary solution to become permanent is the specific mechanism that makes self-storage revenue so stable. Once a tenant is established in a unit, the inertia of continued renting is powerful. The items in the unit are out of sight and out of mind. The monthly charge becomes a routine expense that barely registers in the household budget. Moving the items out requires a day of physical effort and decision-making about what to keep and what to discard, an effort that most people consistently defer. The result, a self-storage facility with an established tenant base has revenue that is remarkably sticky. Occupancy rates at well-located facilities typically run 85% to 95%, with the remaining vacancy representing natural turnover between the departure of one tenant and the arrival of the next. Facilities in supply-constrained markets, where zoning, land costs, or community opposition have limited new construction, sometimes operate at near 100% occupancy for extended periods. The financial structure: simple, scalable, and surprisingly profitable. Here's the financial profile of a self-storage facility that makes it one of the most attractive real estate investment categories available to the individual investor or small operator. A mid-sized facility, 300 to 500 units, covering approximately 40,000 to 60,000 rentable square feet, in a reasonable market generates gross annual revenue of $600,000 to $1,200,000. The operating expense profile of self-storage is uniquely lean compared to other real estate investments. There are no tenants to maintain relationships with, no complex build-outs to manage, no HVAC systems in each unit to repair, no plumbing beyond the office. The primary expenses are property taxes, insurance, utilities, minimal staffing, one part-time or full-time manager for most facilities, and debt service on the facility. Operating expenses typically run 35% to 45% of gross revenue, leaving net operating income of $330,000 to $660,000 per year on a mid-sized facility. The cap rates, the ratio of net operating income to property value, on self-storage have compressed as institutional capital has recognized the asset class's quality, but still typically run 5% to 7% in most markets, implying facility values of $5 million to $13 million for a mid-sized operation. Building a new facility at construction cost, which is typically lower than the market value of an established facility with proven revenue, creates instant equity on completion. The specific feature of self-storage economics that most people don't appreciate until they look at the numbers: revenue per square foot. A residential apartment building generates revenue from a large, expensive-to-maintain living space. A self-storage facility generates revenue from simple metal boxes with minimal maintenance requirements. The revenue per dollar of construction cost is favorable, and the ongoing maintenance cost per dollar of revenue is extremely low compared to any other real estate category. The management simplicity advantage. Here's the operational feature of self-storage that makes it attractive as a semi-passive investment. Modern self-storage management has been almost entirely automated in ways that dramatically reduce the labor requirement. The technology infrastructure available to self-storage operators in 2026 includes automated gate access systems that use codes or smartphone apps, online rental and payment systems that allow tenants to rent units, sign leases, and pay monthly fees without any human interaction, remote monitoring systems that alert the owner to unusual activity, and revenue management software that adjusts unit prices dynamically based on occupancy and demand, the same yield management approach that airlines and hotels use, applied to storage units. A facility with these systems in place can operate with a part-time manager, handling perhaps 15 to 20 hours per week of on-site presence, primarily for customer service and minor maintenance, while the owner manages the business remotely from anywhere. The owner who builds or acquires a self-storage facility and implements modern management technology is, in practice, running a business that requires 5 to 10 hours of owner attention per week once stabilized, while generating the six-figure net income the facility produces. The contrast with other real estate categories is stark. A residential rental portfolio of equivalent value requires continuous tenant management, maintenance coordination, lease administration, and the specific complications that come with managing relationships with people who are living in your property. Self-storage tenants are storing boxes. The emotional complexity, the maintenance requirements, and the management intensity are all dramatically lower. The acquisition and development paths. There are two primary ways to enter the self-storage business, and they have different capital requirements, different risk profiles, and different timelines to cash flow. The acquisition path, buying an existing facility with established occupancy and revenue. The advantages are immediate cash flow, proven demand in the specific location, and existing systems and tenant base. The disadvantages are acquisition price, you're paying for the proven cash flow, and the need for thorough due diligence on the physical condition of the facility, the accuracy of the revenue numbers, and the lease terms on the land if the facility is not built on owned property. The development path, finding land, obtaining permits, constructing the facility, and leasing it up from zero. The advantages are lower cost basis, building at construction cost rather than paying a premium for established cash flow, and the ability to build exactly the facility the market demands rather than inheriting a legacy layout. The disadvantages are the 18 to 24-month timeline between land acquisition and a fully leased, stabilized facility, and the specific risks of the lease-up period where the facility has debt service costs but limited revenue. Many successful self-storage operators have followed a hybrid path. Start with a smaller acquisition to learn the business and establish systems, then use the cash flow and operational knowledge from that facility to develop a new, larger facility with a better location and modern configuration. The boat and RV storage premium. Here's a specific and underappreciated niche within the self-storage category that offers higher revenue per unit than conventional storage with lower construction costs: boat and RV storage. As the boat and RV ownership rates in the United States have grown, particularly following the COVID-era outdoor recreation surge, the demand for outdoor covered and uncovered storage for these large vehicles has expanded dramatically. Homeowner associations in most suburban developments prohibit storing boats and RVs on residential property, creating a forced market of boat and RV owners who must store their vehicles somewhere. Boat and RV storage generates higher revenue per square foot than conventional self-storage because the units or spaces are larger and command higher monthly rents. The construction cost of covered storage structures for boats and RVs is lower per square foot than climate-controlled indoor storage. And the competition is less intense in many markets because the specific zoning and land requirements for boat and RV storage, larger parcels typically on the outskirts of suburban areas, are less contested than the prime commercial real estate locations that conventional self-storage competes for. The operator who identifies a suburban or exurban market with high boat and RV ownership, limited existing storage, and available land at a reasonable price has identified one of the most attractive small to medium real estate development opportunities in the current environment, the right alternative for smaller investors. Here's the honest acknowledgement that direct self-storage ownership requires capital and operational involvement that not every investor can commit. The self-storage REIT sector provides investment exposure to the same economics through publicly traded vehicles. Public Storage, Extra Space Storage, CubeSmart, and Life Storage are the major publicly traded self-storage REITs, and their long-term return records are a financial history lesson in the power of boring business investing. These REITs have generated total returns that have outperformed the broader real estate sector and competed favorably with equity market returns over multi-decade periods by simply owning and operating the unglamorous metal boxes that Americans rent in perpetuity to store their excess possessions. The direct ownership path generates higher returns for the active investor willing to take on management responsibility. The REIT path provides passive exposure with lower minimum investment requirements. Both paths lead to the same destination: participation in the economics of one of the most reliable consumer behavior patterns in the American economy. Chapter 4. The Vending Machine Business. The smallest empire you've never considered building. Here's the business that produces the most extreme version of the reaction this video is designed to produce. The immediate, reflexive dismissal followed by the slow, reluctant realization that the numbers are actually interesting. The vending machine business. Specifically, a strategically assembled, well-located, properly maintained route of vending machines serving captive audiences in locations with genuine demand, which is a description that sounds modest, but represents, for the owner of 50 to 100 well-placed machines, a business generating $100,000 to $300,000 per year in net income from an operation that requires perhaps 20 to 30 hours of work per week. Before we get into the specifics, let's address the thing you're already thinking. Isn't the vending machine business tiny? A thing for semi-retired people supplementing Social Security? A relic of the pre-smartphone era that Amazon and DoorDash have made obsolete? No. Emphatically no. The vending machine industry generates approximately $8 billion in annual revenue in the United States. It has adapted to technological change in ways that have made it more profitable and more manageable, not less. And the specific market positions that generate the best returns, the captive audience locations that this chapter will describe in detail, are structurally insulated from the food delivery and grocery competition that the dismissive view assumes is destroying the category. The vending machine business is not for everyone. It is a physical, route-based business that requires driving, lifting, restocking, and mechanical troubleshooting. It is not a laptop business or a passive income business in the pure sense, but it is a business with extraordinarily low barriers to entry, minimal overhead, no lease obligations or storefront costs, a learning curve that most competent people can navigate in 60 days, and a scalability path from $20,000 startup investment to $200,000 annual income that is more accessible than almost any other business on this list. The location hierarchy, where machines print money and where they collect dust. Here's the most important thing to understand about the vending machine business, the insight that separates the operators generating serious income from the ones who bought 3 machines, put them in mediocre locations, and concluded the business doesn't work. Location is everything, and the best locations share a specific characteristic that is worth understanding before placing a single machine. The characteristic, captive audience with limited alternatives. A vending machine in a shopping mall has low average performance because mall customers have abundant food and beverage alternatives within walking distance. A vending machine in an office building lobby has moderate performance because office workers have lunch options on nearby streets. But a vending machine in a manufacturing facility break room where 200 employees work 8-hour shifts with no nearby food options, no company cafeteria, and a 30-minute break that doesn't accommodate leaving the facility, that machine is performing at a different level entirely. The location hierarchy for vending machine profitability, from best to worst, is approximately Tier 1, manufacturing and industrial facilities. Shift, workers, limited alternatives, high consumption patterns, predictable high volume. A single snack or beverage machine in a well-sized manufacturing facility can generate $500 to $1,500 per month in gross revenue. Multiple machines in a single large facility can make that facility alone worth more than a dozen mediocre locations. Tier 2, healthcare facilities, hospitals, urgent care centers, nursing homes, staff working long shifts, visitors with limited options, 24-hour traffic. Healthcare facilities generate consistent revenue across all hours and all days, including weekends and holidays. Tier 3, educational institutions, schools, community colleges, trade schools, high student traffic, limited off-campus access, predictable demand patterns. Tier 4, government buildings, courthouses, DMV offices, captive customers with significant waiting times and no nearby alternatives. Tier 5, office buildings with limited nearby food options, apartment complex, laundry rooms, gyms, and fitness centers. The operator who builds a route in Tier 1 and Tier 2 locations is operating a fundamentally different and more profitable business than the operator who fills routes with Tier 4 and Tier 5 locations. The location acquisition strategy, how you identify, approach, and secure the best locations, is the primary determinant of business quality. The location acquisition strategy. Here's the specific approach that successful vending operators use to secure the best locations because the process is less mysterious than it sounds and more accessible than most people assume. The first step is identifying target locations, manufacturing facilities, hospitals, schools, in your geographic market. This is genuinely simple. Drive the industrial parks, identify the large employers, look for facilities with large parking lots and shift work operations. The facilities that need vending services are visible and identifiable without any special access or relationships. The second step is the location proposal. You contact the facility manager, operations director, or office manager, whoever handles vendor relationships at the facility, and propose to install vending machines at no cost to the facility. The machines are your equipment, the restocking is your responsibility, the maintenance is your responsibility. In exchange, you ask for permission to place the machines and, in some cases, agree to pay a commission, typically 10% to 25% of gross revenue, to the location. The key insight about location acquisition: you're offering a service, not asking for a favor. A manufacturing facility whose break room currently has no vending service has a genuine problem. Workers who need food and beverages during shifts have no convenient option. You're solving that problem at zero cost to the facility. Many location managers are genuinely happy to have someone approach them with this offer because the alternative is either doing nothing about the problem or going through the complexity of managing a vendor relationship themselves. The commission negotiation matters and varies by location type. The best locations, the ones with the highest traffic and the most captive audiences, command higher commissions because they know their value. A hospital with 500 daily staff is negotiating from a position of strength. A small office building with 30 employees is not. Understanding the negotiating dynamic and being willing to pay appropriate commissions for premium locations while protecting margin on lower volume locations is part of the business competence that separates profitable operators from marginally profitable ones. The modern vending machine technology has changed everything. Here's the aspect of the vending machine business that most people's mental model is most outdated on: the technology. The image of the coin-operated machine that jams randomly and requires a technician to drive across town to fix when it does is a significantly outdated picture of what modern vending equipment looks like and how it functions. Modern vending machines accept credit cards, contactless payments, and smartphone payments, which has dramatically increased per-machine revenue by removing the cash barrier that previously limited purchases. A machine that previously served only customers who happened to have the right coins or small bills now serves every customer with a phone or a card, which in 2026 is essentially every customer. Remote monitoring technology allows operators to see, from their phone or computer, the current inventory level of every machine on the route, the sales data in real time, the payment processing status, and any error conditions that require attention. The operator who previously had to drive the entire route on a fixed schedule to check inventory levels now drives only the machines that actually need restocking, dramatically reducing the labor component of route management. Machine-to-operator connectivity also enables dynamic pricing, adjusting prices for specific products based on demand patterns, time of day, or competitive conditions, and product mix optimization based on actual sales data rather than guesswork. The operator who analyzes which products are selling best at each location and adjusts the mix accordingly generates meaningfully higher revenue than the operator who stocks the same products everywhere regardless of location-specific preferences. The financial model, from starter route to six-figure business. Here's the specific financial journey of a vending machine business built methodically from startup to meaningful scale. Starting point, $20,000 to $40,000 capital. This funds the purchase of 5 to 10 used machines in good mechanical condition. Used machines typically cost $1,500 to $3,000 each depending on age, type, and payment technology, plus initial inventory, a basic vehicle upgrade or cargo capacity, and a few $100s in business formation costs. With 5 machines in average locations generating $300 per month gross revenue each, the gross monthly revenue is $1,500. After product costs, typically 35% to 45% of revenue, and location commissions, the net monthly income is approximately $750 to $900. This is not a replacement income. This is a learning phase that generates some cash while the operator builds skills, relationships, and knowledge of the local market. At 20 machines in above-average locations generating $400 per month gross each, gross monthly revenue is $8,000. Net income after product costs and commissions is approximately $4,000 to $4,800 per month, $48,000 to $58,000 annually. This is a meaningful side income or a modest primary income requiring approximately 15 to 20 hours per week of route work and administration. at 50 machines in a mix of good and excellent locations, averaging $500 per month gross. Gross monthly revenue is $25,000. Net income is approximately $12,000 to $15,000 per month. $144,000 to $180,000 annually. This is a serious business. It requires 25 to 35 hours per week of operation, probably a part-time assistant or a dedicated route driver, and the management systems, inventory software, route optimization, financial tracking that any business at this scale requires. But it is a business generating upper-middle-class income from equipment that can be operated in principle from any city in America with industrial and healthcare facilities. The expansion capital loop. Here's the financial mechanic that makes the vending machine business particularly attractive for operators who don't have large startup capital but are willing to be patient. The business naturally generates the capital to fund its own expansion. A route generating $4,000 per month net can fund the purchase of 2 additional machines, at $2,000 each used, every month, doubling the number of machines in less than a year while keeping the original machines running. The operator who reinvests the first year's net income entirely into additional machines rather than drawing it as personal income arrives at year 2 with a route that generates twice the income, which then funds twice the expansion rate. This is not a unique insight about vending machines. It's the standard small business growth flywheel. But the vending machine business has a specific version of this flywheel that's attractive because the capital required per unit of revenue is low. You can add $400 per month of gross revenue for a $2,000 to $3,000 machine investment, and the revenue from each machine begins immediately rather than after a ramp-up period. The operator who starts with $30,000 builds to 20 machines in year 1, generating $50,000 net, reinvests $30,000 to build to 35 machines, generating $90,000 net in year 2, and continues that pattern. Arrives at a 70 to 80 machine route generating $150,000 to $200,000 annually by year 4. The math is not spectacular by the standards of venture-backed technology companies. It is very good by the standards of a business that anyone with a driver's license, a cargo van, and the willingness to learn the basics of vending machine mechanics can start for $20,000. The niche opportunities within vending. Here's the final dimension of the vending machine business that deserves mention because it represents specific, high-margin opportunities that the standard snack and beverage framing of the category obscures. Specialty vending, machines dispensing products beyond snacks and beverages, has produced some of the most interesting returns in the category. Personal protective equipment vending in industrial facilities, where workers purchase gloves, safety glasses, and ear protection from machines that accept payroll deduction as payment, generates high revenue per transaction. Fresh food vending and machines serving fresh sandwiches, salads, and meals commands significantly higher price points than packaged snacks and serves the specific demand in healthcare and industrial settings for real meal options. Electronics vending, phone chargers, earbuds, travel accessories, in airports and hotels generates high margin on low-volume transactions. The specialty vending operator who identifies a specific underserved niche, a product category that workers or customers genuinely need in locations where that product isn't otherwise conveniently available, and builds a route around that niche, is often competing in a market with significantly less competition than the standard snack and beverage category and commanding price points that the commodity nature of chips and soda doesn't support. Chapter 5. The parking lot. The business that makes money while you sleep, literally, by owning asphalt. Here's the business that produces the most extreme version of the passive income fantasy that most entrepreneurs are chasing through complicated online businesses, complex software products, and elaborate content strategies, except that this version is real, documented, and involves owning a flat piece of paved ground in the right location. The parking lot business. Before you close this video, give this 30 seconds. Because the parking lot is, in specific markets and specific locations, one of the highest returning, lowest maintenance, most genuinely passive, income-generating real estate assets available to the individual investor. And it is consistently overlooked, precisely because it is so obviously unglamorous that sophisticated investors assume someone else has already captured all the value, which in many markets they simply haven't. The parking lot generates revenue from one of the most persistent and universal urban needs. People have cars and they need somewhere to put them while they're doing other things. This need has existed since the automobile was invented, has survived every prediction of its imminent obsolescence by public transit advocates and urban planners, and continues to generate billions of dollars annually for the people who own the land where cars park. The specific economics depend enormously on location, more than almost any other business on this list, which is why this chapter spends significant time on the location analysis before getting to the numbers. The location equation, where asphalt becomes a money machine. Here's what separates a parking lot generating exceptional returns from a parking lot generating mediocre ones. Proximity to destinations that generate consistent, recurring, high-volume parking demand combined with a supply constraint that prevents competing parking from absorbing that demand. The destinations that generate the best parking demand are sports stadiums and arenas, urban core office districts, hospitals and medical centers, airports, entertainment districts with restaurants and bars, concert venues, convention centers, and transit hubs. These destinations share the characteristic of generating large volumes of visitors who arrive by car, need parking for a predictable duration, and have limited alternatives in the immediate vicinity. The supply constraint matters as much as the demand. A parking lot 3 blocks from a baseball stadium in a dense urban area where competing surface lots and garages are at capacity on game days is an extraordinarily valuable asset. A parking lot 3 blocks from the same stadium in a suburban area with abundant free parking in adjacent retail centers is a mediocre asset despite the proximity to the same destination. The parking lot investor who identifies a location with genuine demand and genuine supply constraint has found an asset that generates income with a reliability and a passivity that most real estate investments don't approach. On game days, the lot fills. On weekday mornings, the lot fills with office workers. The revenue happens whether the owner is present or not, with basic management systems in place. The financial profile, numbers that surprise people. Here's where the parking lot business produces the reaction this video has been designed to produce repeatedly. The numbers are significantly better than most people assume. A surface parking lot in an urban core location, 50 to 100 spaces near office buildings and entertainment, generates gross annual revenue of $200,000 to $600,000 depending on the market, the pricing strategy, and the demand generators in the area. Operating expenses are minimal. Lot maintenance, lighting, insurance, basic staffing or automated payment systems, and property taxes. Operating expense ratios of 20% to 35% of gross revenue are common for well-managed surface lots, leaving net operating income of $130,000 to $390,000 annually. The return profile looks even better when considered in the context of the underlying land value. In many urban markets, the land value of a well-located parking lot is substantial. The lot is worth what it is as a parking operation, but it's also worth what it could be as a development site for a higher-use building. Many parking lot owners are simultaneously earning strong current income from the parking operation while holding a land asset that appreciates as urban development pressure increases around it. The specific situation that represents the most attractive parking lot investment opportunity, a surface lot in an urban area that generates strong current income as parking, is owned by a seller who purchased it decades ago and has minimal tax basis, and is located in a neighborhood where development pressure is increasing but hasn't yet driven land values to development feasibility. The buyer of this lot is getting current income yield plus an embedded land appreciation option that may mature into a development opportunity years down the road. The automated operation. Technology has eliminated the staffing problem. Here's the operational feature of the modern parking lot that makes the passivity claim credible rather than theoretical. Automated payment and access technology has eliminated the primary labor cost of the traditional parking operation. The traditional parking lot required attendants, people who collected payment, directed cars to spaces, managed the lot during peak periods, and closed the lot at the end of the day. Attendants are expensive, require management, and introduce the staffing complications that make any labor-dependent business more complex to operate. Modern parking technology, automated pay stations, license plate recognition, app-based payment platforms like SpotHero and ParkWiz, barrier gates controlled by payment verification, has largely eliminated the need for on-site attendance for surface lots. The customer arrives, pays via app or automated station, the gate opens, and the transaction is complete without any human involvement. The owner monitors revenue and occupancy remotely, maintains the equipment and lot surface on a periodic schedule, and collects the income. The app-based parking platforms deserve specific mention because they've changed the marketing economics of the parking lot business. A parking lot listed on Spot Hero, ParkWiz, or similar platforms has instant access to a large customer base of app users who search for parking by location and price. The platform takes a commission, typically 20% to 30% of the booking value, but provides demand that a standalone operation couldn't generate without significant marketing investment. For lots that have predictable demand peaks, game days, concert nights, peak office hours, the platforms allow dynamic pricing that captures maximum revenue during high demand periods. The monthly lease strategy, predictable revenue from regular parkers. Here's the revenue strategy that the most financially sophisticated parking lot operators use to convert a portion of their variable daily revenue into predictable monthly income. The monthly parking lease. A monthly parking lease is an agreement with an individual or business to reserve one or more parking spaces for a fixed monthly fee, paid in advance, regardless of how many days the parker actually uses the space. Monthly lease rates in urban markets typically run $150 to $400 per space per month depending on the market. A 50-space lot that fills 30 spaces with monthly leases at $200 per month generates $6,000 per month in predictable, guaranteed revenue before a single daily parker arrives. The monthly lease strategy converts the most reliable portion of the parking demand, the office workers and residents who need parking every weekday regardless of special events, into a recurring revenue stream with the same financial characteristics as a subscription. Predictable, prepaid, and sticky. Monthly parkers, like laundromat subscribers and car wash members, tend to maintain their leases as long as the parking remains convenient for them, creating a revenue base that persists through the variable daily demand fluctuations. The intelligent parking lot operator builds a portfolio of monthly leases that covers fixed costs, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, debt service, while preserving daily spaces for the higher rate event and transient parking that maximizes revenue during peak demand periods. The land value angle, why parking lot owners often win twice. Here's the dimension of the parking lot investment that elevates it beyond a simple cash flow play, the land appreciation dynamic in growing urban markets. Surface parking lots are, in the language of real estate development, an interim use, a use of land that generates income while the land waits for a higher and better use to become economically viable. In many urban neighborhoods, the surface parking lot is generating acceptable current returns while the surrounding development pressure gradually increases the land's value to the point where development, apartments, offices, mixed-use buildings, becomes the economically optimal use. The parking lot owner in a gentrifying urban neighborhood is often holding an option on a development site while collecting parking income in the meantime. When development pressure reaches sufficient intensity, when the value of the land as a building site significantly exceeds the capitalized value of the parking income, the owner has the option to sell to a developer at a substantial premium to the parking income valuation, or to develop the site themselves if they have the capital and appetite for development risk. This dynamic has made parking lot ownership in specific urban markets one of the most patient and ultimately rewarding real estate investment strategies available, not because parking income is spectacular, but because the combination of current income plus land appreciation option is a risk-reward profile that sophisticated investors have recognized and competed for in the markets where it exists. Chapter 6. The Septic and Portable Toilet Business. The business nobody wants to talk about that pays for everything you want. Here we are. Chapter 6. The one that the people who made it this far in the video were either anticipating with morbid curiosity or actively dreading. The septic and portable toilet business, which we will discuss with the full analytical seriousness it deserves, which turns out to be quite a lot. Because this is one of the most financially attractive, most recession-resistant, most reliably profitable businesses on this entire list, and it is available to motivated operators at a fraction of the competition intensity of literally any other business discussed in this video. Why? Because nobody wants to do it. The product is human waste. The equipment involves tanks of things that decent people prefer not to think about. The marketing materials cannot be made glamorous regardless of how talented the graphic designer is. The business conversations at networking events require a specific kind of psychological comfort with social awkwardness that not everyone possesses. And that is precisely why the people who do it are, with remarkable and slightly poetic consistency, very wealthy. The moat around this business is not a patent or a network effect or a proprietary algorithm. It is the collective unwillingness of ambitious people to overcome their aesthetic objections to the product. Every person who decides they'd rather start a more respectable business is, without knowing it, reducing the competition faced by the person who decided that money doesn't smell. Actually, in this business it does, but it spends the same. The demand structure, essential, non-discretionary, and everywhere. Let's talk about why the septic and portable. Toilet business generates the kind of demand that business owners dream about, non-negotiable, recurring, legally mandated in many cases, and entirely insensitive to economic conditions. Septic systems, the underground waste management infrastructure for approximately 21 million American homes and businesses that are not connected to municipal sewer systems, require regular pumping and maintenance to function. A typical residential septic system requires pumping every 3 to 5 years. Neglecting this maintenance doesn't result in a slightly inconvenient outcome. It results in sewage backing up into the home, a health hazard, potential property damage, and in many jurisdictions, a legal violation. Septic pumping is not a discretionary service. It is a maintenance requirement with consequences severe enough that even the most cost-conscious homeowner eventually calls the truck. The 21 million septic-dependent properties in the United States represent a large, stable, geographically distributed market of customers who will need service on a predictable schedule regardless of economic conditions. The recession that causes people to delay buying a new car does not cause them to delay pumping their septic tank for the 5th consecutive year. The economic logic is simple and the behavioral reality matches it. Some things you cannot indefinitely defer, and septic maintenance is one of them. Portable toilet rental occupies a different but equally robust demand category. Construction sites, of which there are always many in good economic times and moderate ones, are required by OSHA regulations to provide sanitation facilities for workers. Special events, concerts, festivals, sporting events, outdoor weddings, political rallies, fairs require portable sanitation at a scale that permanent facilities can't provide. Disaster relief operations, infrastructure maintenance projects, outdoor film shoots, agricultural operations during harvest season. The list of situations requiring portable toilet rental is longer and more varied than most people realize, and it generates a consistent, diversified revenue stream for the operator who serves it. The financial profile, numbers that make the smell worthwhile. Here's where the septic and portable toilet business reveals its full financial attractiveness, which is the moment in every conversation about this business when the people who were politely skeptical become genuinely interested. A mid-sized septic pumping operation, one truck, one operator, serving a regional market, generates gross annual revenue of $300,000 to $600,000. The primary cost is the truck, a vacuum tanker capable of pumping and transporting septic waste, which costs $80,000 to $200,000 new or $30,000 to $80,000 used and refurbished, plus disposal fees at the local wastewater treatment facility, fuel, insurance, and the operator's labor. Net margins for established septic operations typically run 30% to 50% of gross revenue, generating net income of $90,000 to $300,000 per year from a single truck operation. The portable toilet rental side of the business has different economics but equally attractive margins. Portable toilet units cost $800 to $1,500 each to purchase new. A unit rented at $100 to $150 per month for a construction site generates full payback in 8 to 12 months. Once the unit is paid off, the monthly rental revenue is almost entirely profit, minus cleaning service costs and periodic maintenance. An operator with 200 units on rent at an average of $110 per month generates $22,000 per month in gross rental revenue, $264,000 annually, from an asset base that cost approximately $200,000 to build. The return on the initial investment, once units are deployed, is extraordinary. The combined septic and portable toilet business, which most operators in the space run as an integrated service, using the same trucks and staff for both, generates the kind of revenue and margin combination that would attract significant competition in any other industry. The competition it actually attracts is limited specifically because of the aesthetic barrier discussed above, which means that operators in this space often enjoy pricing power and market position that their counterparts in more attractive industries would envy. The operational model. What running this business actually looks like. Here's the honest operational picture of the septic and portable toilet business, because the financial attractiveness deserves to be grounded in the actual reality of running it. The workday starts early. Septic pumping is primarily scheduled for the morning, when residential customers are available and the treatment facilities are open for waste disposal. The operator drives the truck to the customer location, connects the pump to the septic access point, pumps the tank, a process taking 20 to 45 minutes depending on tank size and condition, and drives to the treatment facility to dispose of the waste. A full day of septic pumping might involve 8 to 12 service calls, covering a geographic radius of 30 to 60 miles from the operator's base. Portable toilet service involves regular cleaning and maintenance rounds, typically weekly for construction site units, plus delivery and pickup for event rentals. The cleaning round is the most labor-intensive aspect of the portable toilet business, and the one that most determines the operator's ability to scale, because it requires either the owner's time or reliable staff who are comfortable with the work. The staffing challenge is the specific operational constraint that limits growth for many operators in this space, finding people willing to do the physical work, maintaining them, and building the operational systems that allow the business to grow beyond what the owner can personally handle. The operators who solve the staffing challenge through competitive compensation, genuine workplace culture, and operational systems that make the work as efficient and as dignified as possible build the businesses that scale to significant revenue and require the owner's management rather than their labor. The route density and geographic strategy. Here's the operational efficiency insight that separates profitable septic and portable toilet operators from marginally profitable ones. Route density. The cost of driving an empty truck is nearly identical to the cost of driving a full one. The operator who schedules service calls efficiently, maximizing the number of stops per mile driven, clustering geographically proximate customers on the same day, dramatically reduces the fuel and time cost per service call relative to the operator with a scattered, inefficient route. The geographic strategy for building a septic pumping business starts with identifying the highest density septic-dependent areas within the target market, typically older suburban and rural areas where municipal sewer infrastructure was never extended, and concentrating marketing and service capacity in those areas before expanding outward. A business that dominates a specific geographic zone with enough customer density to keep the truck fully scheduled without excessive driving generates higher margins than a business covering a large territory with the same number of customers spread across it. The portable toilet rental business benefits from the same geographic concentration logic. The operator who has 50 units on rent within a 10-mile radius can clean and service those units in a single efficient daily route. The operator with 50 units spread across 50 miles is spending twice the time and fuel on the same number of units. The acquisition opportunity. Buying established routes. Here's the specific entry strategy that offers the most attractive risk-reward profile for new entrants to the septic and portable toilet business. Acquiring an established operation from a retiring owner. The septic and portable toilet business has a significant demographic reality. Many of the operators who built the industry are now in their 60s and 70s, with no natural succession plan, and are willing to sell their established routes, their equipment, and their customer relationships at multiples that reflect the industry's limited buyer pool. A septic pumping business generating $200,000 per year in net income, might sell for $300,000 to $600,000, 1.5 to 3 times annual earnings, at a multiple that would be considered extremely cheap in virtually any other industry because the number of buyers willing to enter this business is small. The buyer of an established septic route is acquiring not just revenue, but customer relationships, homeowners who have used the same pumping service for a decade and will continue using whoever acquires the route as long as the service quality is maintained. Customer retention in the septic business is extraordinarily high precisely because switching providers requires the homeowner to find an alternative, schedule a new service, and trust a new operator with infrastructure that is both critical and somewhat opaque to the average homeowner. Most customers don't switch unless given a specific reason to, which means the acquired customer base is genuinely sticky. The financing of a septic business acquisition is typically supported by the SBA loan program, which has financed acquisitions in this category and recognizes the business's cash flow quality as security for the loan. The combination of below-market acquisition multiples, sticky customer revenue, and available acquisition financing makes the established septic business acquisition one of the most attractive small business purchase opportunities in the current market. The expansion pathways. Here's the growth path for the operator who has established a profitable core operation and wants to expand it toward the 7-figure business valuation that this chapter's framing implies. The first expansion pathway is geographic, adding service territory by acquiring a neighboring operator or by building organic customer acquisition in adjacent areas. Geographic expansion leverages the existing truck, the existing treatment facility relationships, and the existing operational systems while adding revenue from new customers. The second pathway is service line expansion, adding related services that use the same equipment, the same customers, and the same operational infrastructure. Grease trap cleaning, servicing the grease interceptors that restaurants and commercial kitchens are required to maintain, uses the same vacuum truck equipment as septic pumping, and serves a commercial customer base with even more predictable service schedules. Hydrojetting, high-pressure pipe cleaning, is a complementary service that the same truck and operator can provide. Each service line addition increases the revenue generated per truck per day and strengthens the customer relationship by making the operator a more comprehensive service provider. The third pathway is the fleet expansion model, from 1 truck to 2, from 2 to 5, from 5 to 10. Each truck addition, properly staffed and routed, generates incremental net income that funds further expansion. The operator who grows from 1 truck generating $150,000 net annually to 5 trucks generating $120,000 net each, a modest per-truck reduction that reflects the management overhead of a larger operation, has built a business generating $600,000 annually with a valuation at modest multiples appropriate for the industry of $1.2 million to $1.8 million, that is, by any reasonable definition, a millionaire business, built on a foundation that most people refuse to consider because of what the trucks are carrying. Chapter 7. The Lawn Care and Landscaping Business, the Outdoor. Empire that grows while you sleep. Here's the business that every suburban homeowner interacts with weekly during the warmer months that generates billions of dollars annually across hundreds of thousands of operators and that has quietly produced more first-generation millionaires than almost any other service business in America, despite being so visible, so familiar, and so apparently simple that most people who think about starting a business never seriously consider it. The lawn care and landscaping business, before the immediate objection arrives, that's just mowing grass. How do you build real wealth from mowing grass? Let's establish what this business actually is at scale, because the mental image of a teenager pushing a mower around the neighborhood for $20 a yard is so far from the actual economics of a well-built lawn care operation that they barely share a category. A mature, systemized lawn care business serving 200 to 400 residential or commercial accounts generates $500,000 to $2 million in annual revenue. It operates multiple crews simultaneously, serves customers on recurring weekly or bi-weekly schedules that generate predictable subscription-like revenue, and, for the operators who add the higher margin services that transform a mowing company into a full-service landscape management business, generates net profit margins of 15% to 25% that translate to $75,000 to $500,000 in annual owner income. The owner of a mature operation is not pushing a mower. They are managing crews, overseeing customer relationships, handling business development, and working on the business rather than in it. The path from mower pusher to business owner is more accessible than in almost any other business category, requires less startup capital than any other business on this list, and has a documented, repeatable growth trajectory that hundreds of thousands of operators have successfully followed. This is the business where the barrier to entry is genuinely low. A truck, a trailer, a commercial mower, and the willingness to work. And the barrier to scale is primarily the operator's organizational and business building skills rather than capital. Why lawn care is a perpetual motion machine for cash. Here's the demand characteristic of lawn care that makes it such a reliable foundation for wealth building. Grass grows every week. Not metaphorically, literally. Every week during the growing season, the grass on every residential and commercial property that hasn't been treated to prevent growth gets longer and eventually requires cutting. The demand for lawn care is not created by marketing, not stimulated by trend cycles, not dependent on consumer discretionary spending in the way that luxury or entertainment services are. It is generated by biology and maintained by the social norms of suburban property ownership that make an unmowed lawn a source of genuine stress for most homeowners. The recurring nature of the demand, weekly or bi-weekly service on a schedule, produces revenue that has the financial characteristics of a subscription without requiring any technology or subscription infrastructure. A lawn care account that has been on weekly service for 3 years generates $150 to $250 per month in predictable recurring revenue from a customer relationship that renews automatically unless the customer actively chooses to cancel. The average lawn care customer tenure for operators who provide reliable service quality exceeds 3 years and often extends to a decade or more. The customer who found a reliable lawn service and has been using it for 7 years is not shopping for alternatives. They are renewing automatically because finding and trusting a new provider requires effort they'd prefer not to expend. The seasonal concentration of lawn care revenue, primarily spring through fall in most of the country, year-round in the Sun Belt, is a characteristic that new operators sometimes experience as a limitation, but that experienced operators manage as a planning feature. The seasonality creates natural periods of high cash generation and natural periods for equipment maintenance, business planning, staff training, and the sales activity that builds the customer base for the following season. Operators in northern markets who add snow removal service to their winter offering convert the slow season into a revenue season, using the same trucks and the same customer relationships that the lawn business built. The service ladder. How mowing leads to everything else. Here's the specific business development insight that transforms a lawn mowing operation into a genuinely high-revenue, high-margin landscape management company, the service ladder. The concept is simple, and its financial implications are significant. A customer who hires you for weekly mowing at $150 per month has established a trusted vendor relationship. That same customer needs their lawn fertilized 3 to 4 times per year, at $80 to $150 per application. They need their shrubs trimmed twice per year, at $150 to $400 depending on the property. They need their leaf cleanup done in fall, at $200 to $600 depending on the property size and tree coverage. They need their irrigation system turned on in spring and winterized in fall, at $75 to $150 per visit. They may need mulch refreshed annually, at $300 to $800 for an average residential property. They may want seasonal color, annual flowers planted in spring and fall, at $200 to $500 per planting. A customer generating $150 per month, $1,800 per year, from mowing alone generates $3,500 to $5,000 per year when the full service ladder is offered and accepted. The customer acquisition cost was incurred once for the initial mowing relationship. Every additional service sold to the same customer is nearly pure incremental revenue with minimal additional acquisition cost. The specific margin difference between mowing and the add-on services deserves emphasis. Mowing is a high-labor, relatively low-margin service. The equipment and labor costs are significant relative to the revenue. Fertilization, weed control, and pest management, the lawn treatment services that are applied by one technician in 20 minutes per property using a backpack or ride-on spreader, have dramatically lower labor costs relative to revenue and generate margins of 50% to 70%. The operator who builds a chemical lawn treatment program on top of a mowing base is layering a high-margin service business onto a lower-margin labor business, and the combined economics are significantly better than either service alone. Hardscape installation, patios, retaining walls, walkways, outdoor kitchens is the highest ticket category available to the landscape company and the one with the most significant project revenue. A single patio installation generates $8,000 to $30,000 in revenue. A complete backyard transformation generates $25,000 to $100,000. These projects require design skills, construction expertise, and crew management that go beyond standard lawn maintenance, but they represent a natural evolution for the operator who has built customer trust through reliable maintenance service and is ready to offer higher value project work to the same customer base. The recurring revenue calculation, what the business is actually worth. Here's the financial insight that matters most for understanding why the lawn care business is a genuine wealth-building vehicle rather than just a good income source. The value of a recurring customer base is not just the annual revenue it generates. It is a multiple of that annual revenue, an asset value that the operator has built and can sell. Lawn care businesses are acquired and sold regularly, and the acquisition multiples are based on the recurring monthly revenue, the RMR, of the customer base. A lawn care business with $30,000 in monthly recurring revenue from contracts, $360,000 annually, from maintenance accounts typically sells for $300,000 to $600,000, representing 1 to 2 times annual recurring revenue. This multiple may seem modest, but consider what it means for the operator who has built the business from zero. Starting from zero with $15,000 in equipment, building to $30,000 monthly recurring revenue over 5 to 7 years through organic growth and customer retention, and selling the business for $400,000 while having generated $100,000 to $150,000 in annual personal income during the building period. This is a wealth creation outcome that most employees with comparable education and work ethic will not achieve in the same time frame. The operators who build the most valuable lawn care businesses are the ones who treat the recurring customer base as the asset they are building, rather than treating the business as a job that happens to pay well. Every new account added is not just additional monthly revenue, it is additional asset value that compounds as the account is retained year after year. The technology and systems that enable scale. Here's the operational infrastructure that separates the lawn care company that plateaus at $200,000 in revenue because the owner can't manage more than they can personally oversee, from the company that reaches $1 million and beyond because the systems do the management work that the owner would otherwise have to do personally. Route optimization software, tools like Service Autopilot, Jobber, or LawnStarter's business management platform, schedules crews efficiently, routes them geographically to minimize drive time, tracks job completion, and provides the owner with real-time visibility into what every crew is doing. The difference between a manually scheduled operation and a software-optimized one is approximately 20% to 30% more jobs completed per crew per day, a productivity improvement that goes directly to revenue and margin. Customer relationship management software handles the quoting, invoicing, and payment collection that consumes enormous amounts of owner time in manually operated businesses. Automated invoicing, auto-pay enrollment, and digital quote acceptance reduce the administrative burden of each customer relationship to near zero for the owner, freeing their time for business development and management. The GPS tracking of trucks and equipment serves both operational and accountability functions. The owner can see that the crew is at the scheduled property, that the appropriate time is being spent at each location, and that the route is being followed efficiently. The presence of GPS tracking also reduces the theft and unauthorized use of equipment that represents a meaningful cost in operations without it. The combination of scheduling software, CRM, automated billing, and GPS tracking creates an operational infrastructure that allows a single owner to effectively manage 4 to 8 crews, 40 to 80 employees, without being present at any specific job. This is the infrastructure that enables the transition from operator to business owner, and it is available to the lawn care company at software subscription costs of $200 to $500 per month, a trivial expense relative to the operational value it provides. The hiring reality, the specific challenge that limits growth. Here's the honest acknowledgement of the specific challenge that limits growth in the lawn care business more than any other single factor: hiring and retaining reliable, skilled labor. Lawn care is physically demanding outdoor work. It requires early starts, work in hot and cold weather, and the consistent physical effort of operating commercial equipment across multiple properties per day. The labor market for this work is competitive because many operators are bidding for the same pool of workers, and the operators, who pay above market wages, provide reliable schedules, maintain good equipment, and treat their employees well, attract and retain better workers than the operators who don't. The labor cost management challenge is real. Labor is typically 35% to 50% of gross revenue in a lawn care business, and the difference between a well-managed labor cost and a poorly managed one is the difference between a profitable business and a break-even one. Operators who solve the labor challenge through competitive compensation, consistent scheduling, equipment quality that makes the work more efficient, and a workplace culture that attracts referrals from existing employees build sustainable businesses. Operators who treat labor as an interchangeable cost to be minimized struggle with turnover that costs more in recruitment, training, and quality decline than the wage savings produced. The specific labor strategy that the most successful lawn care operators use: hire slow, pay competitively, train thoroughly, and promote from within. A crew leader who started as a mowing technician was promoted to lead their own crew and is now responsible for customer quality on a defined route, and compensated for that responsibility, is a more reliable and more committed employee than a series of replaceable entry-level workers. Building a career ladder within the business, even a short one, produces retention that dramatically reduces the operator's ongoing labor management burden. The commercial account advantage. Here's the specific customer category that transforms a residential lawn care business into a higher revenue, more efficient, and ultimately more valuable commercial operation: commercial accounts. Commercial properties, office parks, retail centers, apartment complexes, homeowner associations, industrial campuses, municipal facilities require lawn and landscape maintenance at a scale that individual residential accounts don't approach. A single apartment complex with 200 units might pay $3,000 to $8,000 per month for comprehensive landscape maintenance. A corporate office campus might pay $5,000 to $15,000 per month. A large homeowner association might pay $10,000 to $30,000 per month for full-service landscape management. The economics of commercial accounts are fundamentally different from residential. The revenue per stop is much higher. The crew spends more time at each property and generates more revenue per hour of work. The billing relationship is with a property manager or HOA board rather than an individual homeowner, which means payment is more reliable and the renewal process is more formal. The accounts are secured through competitive bidding, a formal RFP process, which requires the operator to develop proposal and presentation skills, but which produces multi-year contracts that provide revenue visibility unavailable with individual residential accounts. The lawn care operator who successfully transitions from primarily residential to a mix of residential and commercial accounts, or primarily commercial for larger operations, is building a business with higher revenue concentration, better margin profile, and more predictable cash flow than a purely residential operation. The transition requires business development skill and patience. Commercial accounts take longer to win and involve more decision makers than residential accounts, but the revenue and margin improvement justifies the investment in the transition. The Millionaire lawn care operator. What the destination looks like. Here's the specific endpoint that the lawn care business can reach for the operator who builds it systematically over 7 to 10 years. expressed in numbers that make the trajectory concrete. Year 1, solo operation, 40 to 60 residential accounts, $60,000 to $90,000 gross revenue, $35,000 to $50,000 net income after equipment costs and expenses. This is a good first-year result for a single operator working full days, 5 to 6 days per week. Year 3, first crew hired, 120 to 180 accounts, $180,000 to $280,000 gross revenue, $60,000 to $90,000 net income. The owner is transitioning from working primarily in the field to spending half their time on customer management, business development, and crew supervision. Year 5, 2 to 3 crews, 250 to 400 accounts, $400,000 to $700,000 gross revenue, $80,000 to $140,000 net income, service ladder fully deployed, mowing, treatments, seasonal cleanups, mulch, some installation work. Owner is primarily off the equipment and managing the business. Year 7 to 10, 4 to 6 crews, commercial accounts added, $800,000 to $1,500,000 gross revenue, $120,000 to $300,000 net income. Business systems, software, hiring processes, quality control are established. Owner works 40 to 50 hours per week managing rather than laboring. Business asset value at 1 to 1.5 times. Annual recurring revenue, $800,000 to $2 million. This is a millionaire outcome. Not instant, not effortless, but achievable on a timeline shorter than a career. Built from a truck, a trailer, and the willingness to show up reliably and solve a problem that every grass-owning property in America has every week. Bonus Chapter: The coin-operated car wash, the forgotten hybrid that combines 3 businesses into one. Here's a business that didn't make the original list because it felt like a variation on the car wash chapter and then revealed itself through the research to be sufficiently distinct, financially, operationally, and strategically, to deserve its own treatment. The coin-operated self-service car wash, the multi-bay facility where customers pull into individual bays, feed money into a machine, and wash their own vehicles using high-pressure wands and foam brushes. This is not the same business as the express exterior conveyor car wash discussed in Chapter 2, and the differences matter in ways that make the coin-op wash a more accessible, differently profitable, and distinctively attractive option for the investor with less capital and more interest in the operational simplicity of a truly semi-automated business. Why the coin-op wash is its own category. The conveyor car wash is a high-revenue, high-capital, operationally complex business that benefits from scale and subscription models, but requires $3 million or more to build properly and generates management demands that are substantial for an individual owner. The coin-operated self-service wash is a different animal, a typical coin-op facility, 4 to 8 bays, plus 1 or 2 in-bay automatic machines for customers who want a machine wash, costs $400,000 to $1,200,000 to build, or $250,000 to $800,000 to acquire, depending on condition and market. It requires minimal staffing. Many successful coin-op washes operate with 0 permanent employees, relying on the owner's weekly visits for cleaning, maintenance, and revenue collection, and generates annual gross revenue of $100,000 to $400,000 with net margins of 40% to 60%. The specific math: a well-located 8-bay coin-op wash generating $250,000 gross annually with 50% net margins produces $125,000 in owner net income from a business that requires perhaps 10 to 15 hours of owner time per week. The capital deployed, $600,000 for an acquisition at 5 times earnings, generates a 20% cash-on-cash return before any debt leverage. With typical acquisition financing at 70% loan-to-value, the cash invested is $180,000, generating $125,000 minus $40,000 in debt service. $85,000 net cash to the equity investor, representing a 47% cash-on-cash return on the invested equity. These are exceptional returns for a business with this risk profile and this management intensity. The hybrid revenue model, here's the specific financial architecture of the coin-op wash that makes it more interesting than it initially appears. The multiple revenue streams from a single footprint. Revenue stream 1, self-service bay washes. Customers pay per use, typically $2 to $5 for a timed wash cycle, for access to the high-pressure equipment. This is the most variable revenue stream dependent on weather and traffic volume, but also the most volume-driven and most sensitive to location quality. Revenue stream 2, in-bay automatic machine. The touchless or soft-touch automatic machine in one or two bays of the facility operates like a miniature version of the conveyor wash. The customer stays in the car, the machine washes it. The revenue is higher per transaction than the self-service bays. A busy in-bay automatic generates $80,000 to $150,000 per year in gross revenue on its own. Revenue stream 3, vending. The coin-op wash facility is a natural location for vending machines, air and vacuum machines, fragrance dispensers, towel vending, window cleaner, vending that generate incremental revenue from customers who have already paid for a wash and are standing at the facility with change in their pocket. Vending revenue at a well-equipped coin-op wash can add $15,000 to $40,000 annually. Revenue stream 4, detailing suites. Some coin-op operators add dedicated detailing bays, covered, well-lit spaces with power outlets and water access, that professional detailers rent by the hour or day. This converts otherwise unused facility capacity into rental income from detailers who need a professional workspace but don't have a fixed location. The combination of these revenue streams from a single facility footprint produces a revenue density, income per square foot of land, that rivals much more expensive real estate investments. The maintenance reality and equipment longevity. Here's the honest operational discussion of the coin-op wash that potential investors need to understand before acquiring or building. The equipment requires maintenance, and the quality of that maintenance is the primary determinant of the business's financial performance. High-pressure wash equipment, pumps, booms, hoses, nozzles, chemical injection systems, experiences wear from continuous use and exposure to the elements. A facility with equipment that is frequently out of service loses revenue directly proportional to the number of non-functional bays. A facility with equipment that functions reliably generates consistent revenue and maintains customer satisfaction. The difference between these outcomes is primarily the owner's maintenance discipline and the quality of the equipment service relationships they maintain. The good news, commercial car wash equipment from quality manufacturers, Karcher, Wash World, PDQ, Mark 7, is engineered for heavy commercial use and can last 15 to 25 years with proper maintenance. The maintenance requirements are predictable and schedulable. Seasonal. Preparation, regular pump inspection, annual chemical system service, rather than crisis-driven, if the operator maintains a preventive schedule. The operator who learns basic car wash equipment maintenance, pressure pump servicing, nozzle replacement, foam brush refurbishment, reduces maintenance costs and response time compared to the operator entirely dependent on service contractors. This mechanical aptitude is not a requirement for ownership, but it is a competitive advantage that experienced owners consistently cite as a meaningful cost differentiator. The location overlap with other boring businesses. Here's the synergy observation that ties this bonus chapter back to the broader theme of the video. The coin-operated car wash, the laundromat, and the vending machine business share a specific customer profile, a specific location type, and a specific operational model that creates natural combination opportunities for the boring business investor building a portfolio. All three businesses serve customers who are performing a routine maintenance task, washing clothes, washing vehicles, purchasing a snack, at a self-service facility with minimal human interaction. All three generate cash revenue in real time. All three can be operated with minimal staffing through technology and automated payment systems. All three are well suited to location types: commercial strips, high-traffic suburban corridors, apartment-adjacent retail. That overlap enough that the same investor can sometimes cite multiple businesses in the same geographic cluster, creating route efficiency and management visits, and creating a more defensible market position through combined service offering. The investor who owns a laundromat installs vending machines in the laundromat's waiting area, adds a coin-op car wash in an adjacent bay of the same commercial property, and manages all three businesses in a single weekly visit, has built a genuinely semi-passive cash flow portfolio from three businesses that individually seemed modest and collectively represent a substantial income stream and a significant asset base. Building the boring business portfolio, the compounding strategy. Here's the chapter, or more accurately the synthesis, that ties together everything in this video into a specific, actionable wealth-building strategy that goes beyond any individual business. The boring business portfolio approach. The most financially successful boring business owners are not typically the ones who went very deep into a single category, the person who owns 15 laundromats and nothing else, or the person who has 100 vending machines and no other assets. They are often the people who built a core business in one category, generated cash flow from that business, reinvested that cash flow into a second boring business in a complementary or adjacent category, and continued the process until the portfolio collectively generates the kind of income and asset value that individual businesses, taken alone, approach more slowly. The specific compounding strategy looks like this in practice. An operator starts with a laundromat, the most accessible entry point on this list in terms of capital requirement relative to cash flow, and generates $70,000 to $100,000 in net annual income from the first location over years 1 and 2. In years 2 and 3, that cash flow funds the down payment and the first year of debt service on a small self-storage facility in the same market, acquired with SBA financing, generating $80,000 to $120,000 in additional annual net income by year 4. In years 4 and 5, the combined cash flow from the laundromat and the storage facility funds the acquisition of a coin-op car wash and the deployment of a small vending route in the industrial parks near the storage facility. By year 7 to 8, the portfolio is generating $250,000 to $400,000 in combined annual net income from 4 boring businesses that the owner manages in perhaps 25 to 35 hours per week. Not 40 hours of intense daily crisis management, but regular scheduled attention to businesses that are running on established systems. The combined asset value of the portfolio, at modest multiples appropriate for each business type, is $1.5 million to $3 million. This is not a fantasy. It is the documented trajectory of hundreds of boring business portfolio builders whose stories are available in the business ownership communities, the forums, the podcasts, the Facebook groups, where the people who actually build this kind of wealth share their experiences with far less fanfare than the startup world generates for ventures that are statistically less likely to produce a positive return. The mindset shift that makes all of this possible. Here's the final insight that underlies every business on this list and the portfolio strategy that connects them. The wealth-building boring business owner has made a specific and deliberate mindset shift that most people who think about entrepreneurship have not made. The shift is from excitement to effectiveness. From what business would I be passionate about building to what business will reliably generate the cash flow and asset value I want, with the management demands I can sustain in the market I can access. This shift sounds obvious when stated plainly, and it is genuinely difficult to execute in a culture that consistently celebrates passionate entrepreneurship and consistently under-celebrates methodical wealth building through unglamorous operations. The person who starts a laundromat because the numbers are good, not because they love laundromats, not because laundromats are their passion, not because they find commercial washing machines spiritually fulfilling, is already ahead of the person who spends years searching for the business idea they can be genuinely excited about. The laundromat doesn't need your passion, it needs your capital, your attention to location selection, your maintenance discipline, and your willingness to show up. The returns, unlike passion, are reliable. The boring business owner is also making a specific trade with their ego, the trade of social status for financial status. The person who owns 3 laundromats and a self-storage facility is not going to get the impressed reaction at a dinner party that the startup founder gets. They are going to get mild, polite interest and a subject change. But they are also, at the end of the same 10-year period, substantially more likely to be financially independent, to have the paid-off house, the fully funded retirement account, the income that doesn't require their daily presence to continue, than the person whose dinner party story was more impressive. The boring businesses in this video are not a consolation prize for people who couldn't build something more exciting. They are a deliberate choice, available to anyone willing to make it, that trades the social rewards of exciting entrepreneurship for the financial rewards of effective, reliable, compounding wealth building. The choice is available, the businesses are real, the returns are documented, the competition is limited specifically because the choice requires embracing the boring in ways that most people won't. The only question, as this video said at the very end, is whether you are willing to be boring enough to get rich. The market is waiting for your answer. Chapter 8. The ATM Business, the smallest boring business that fits in a corner and prints cash. Here's the business that has the lowest barrier to entry of anything discussed in this entire video, requires the least physical space of any cash-generating asset you can own, demands the least ongoing time commitment of any business on this list, and is so quietly, consistently profitable that the people who build ATM routes rarely talk about it publicly. Not because it's a secret, but because explaining it to someone whose mental model of starting a business involves a storefront, a product, and a marketing strategy requires a conceptual reframe that most conversations don't have time for. The ATM business, specifically the independent ATM deployer model, the individual or small operator who purchases ATM machines, places them in high-traffic locations, fills them with cash, and collects the surcharge fee that every non-bank customer pays to access their money from a machine they don't own. The surcharge, that $2.50 to $3.50 fee that everyone pays when they use an ATM that isn't their bank's machine, and that everyone grumbles about for approximately 4 seconds before taking the cash and getting on with their life, is the revenue model of the independent ATM business. Every time someone pays that fee, a portion of it goes to the location where the machine sits, a portion goes to the payment network, and the remainder goes to the person who owns the machine. That remainder, typically $1.50 to $2.50 per transaction, is the profit unit of the ATM business, and it accumulates across every transaction on every machine in the operator's portfolio, every day, whether the operator is working or sleeping or on vacation. The transaction math, small numbers, that add up remarkably fast. Here's where the ATM business reveals its financial character through the specific arithmetic of transaction volume and per transaction profit. A well-located ATM, placed in a bar, a convenience store, a nightclub, a casino, a laundromat, a check cashing store, a gas station, or any high-foot traffic location where customers frequently need cash, processes between 100 and 400 transactions per month. The wide range reflects the enormous variation in location quality, which is the primary variable in ATM business performance, just as it is in every other business on this list. At the lower end, a machine in an average convenience store processing 150 transactions per month at a $2 net surcharge to the owner generates $300 per month, $3,600 per year, from a single machine. The machine costs $2,000 to $3,500 to purchase new, or $1,000 to $2,000 used. The payback period on the machine purchase is 6 to 12 months, after which the machine is generating pure profit. At the higher end, a machine in a busy bar, nightclub, or entertainment venue processing 400 transactions per month at a $2.50 net surcharge generates $1,000 per month, $12,000 per year, from a single machine. The same $2,500 machine investment is fully recovered in less than 3 months. Every subsequent month is profit. The average well-run ATM in a reasonable location generates $400 to $600 per month in net income to the owner after location commission, typically 20% to 25% of the surcharge paid to the location for hosting the machine. 10 machines averaging $500 per month generates $5,000 per month, $60,000 per year. 20 machines averaging $500 per month generates $10,000 per month, $120,000 per year. The machines themselves represent an asset base of $40,000 to $70,000 for a 20-machine portfolio, producing returns on that asset base that would be extraordinary in any other context. The specific beauty of this math: the marginal cost of adding a machine is the machine purchase price plus the cash stocked in the machine. The marginal revenue is immediate and begins with the first transaction. There is no ramp-up period, no customer acquisition cost, no marketing spend required to generate the first dollar of revenue. The machine is placed, stocked with cash, turned on, and begins generating surcharge revenue from the first person who uses it. The location strategy, where ATMs generate extraordinary returns. Here's the location hierarchy for ATM placement, from highest to lowest transaction volume, which determines more than any other single variable whether the ATM business generates exceptional returns or merely acceptable ones. Tier 1, nightlife venues, bars, nightclubs, music venues, adult entertainment establishments. These locations generate the highest transaction volumes in the ATM business because the combination of cash-preferred transactions, alcohol-impaired decision-making about fees, and the inconvenience of leaving the venue to find a bank. ATM produces transaction rates that often exceed $500 to $1,000 per month at peak locations. A single ATM in a busy nightclub can generate $1,500 to $3,000 per month in net owner income. The trade-off: these locations typically command higher commissions, 30% to 40% of surcharge, and may require more frequent cash loading due to high transaction volume. Tier 2, cannabis dispensaries. In states where cannabis is legal, dispensaries operate primarily or entirely in cash due to banking restrictions on cannabis businesses. The ATM at a busy dispensary is not competing with alternative payment methods. Credit cards are often not accepted, and processes transaction volumes that reflect the entire cash payment customer base of the dispensary. Commission rates are high because the dispensary understands the value of its ATM placement, but the transaction volumes justify the commission. Tier 3, check cashing and payday lending locations. The customer base of these businesses is specifically the cash economy consumer who needs frequent ATM access and who is accustomed to paying fees for financial services. Transaction volumes are reliable and consistent, and the demographic is less sensitive to surcharge amounts than bank customers. Tier 4, convenience stores, gas stations, high foot traffic, cash frequent transactions, customers who are already stopping and have a practical orientation toward the visit that makes ATM use a natural addition to the stop. Transaction volumes are lower than Tier 1 and 2, but more consistent and easier to predict. Commission rates are typically 20% to 25%. Tier 5, restaurants, laundromats, barbershops, nail salons, lower transaction volumes but also lower competition for placement and often lower commission expectations from the location. These locations work well in a diversified portfolio that balances high-volume premium locations with lower-maintenance steady performers. The cash loading logistics, the operational reality. Here's the operational component of the ATM business that requires the most honest discussion, because it's the one that most differentiates the ATM business from purely passive alternatives: the cash loading. ATMs need to be filled with cash to dispense cash. This is not a technical problem. It is a physical, logistics, and capital requirement that the operator must manage. The operator must either personally load the machines or hire a licensed armored courier service to do it, and the cash in the machines at any given time represents working capital that is not available for other uses while it sits in the ATMs. The personal loading model works for small routes, 5 to 15 machines within a manageable geographic radius, where the operator can service all machines in a single weekly or bi-weekly round. The operator drives to each machine, opens the cash cassette with their key, loads the bills, records the transaction count and settlement data, and moves to the next machine. A 10-machine route can typically be serviced in a single day once per week, making the total owner time commitment for a $60,000 per year ATM business approximately 1 day per week, plus administrative time for settlement, reconciliation, and accounting. The capital requirement for cash loading is worth calculating explicitly because it surprises new operators. An ATM loaded with $5,000 in 20s contains 250 bills. A 10-machine route with $5,000 per machine requires $50,000 in working capital that is continuously cycling through the machines, deployed in machines, collected through transactions, settled to the operator's account, and redeployed. The settlement cycle, the time between a transaction occurring and the surcharge revenue landing in the operator's bank account, is typically 2 to 3 business days through the payment processor. The working capital requirement is manageable for most operators, but must be planned for before the business is launched. The armored courier model, hiring a licensed cash logistics company to load the machines, eliminates the operator's time requirement for loading, but costs $50 to $150 per machine per service visit, which reduces net income per machine significantly. This model is appropriate for large routes, 30 or more machines, where the operator's time is more valuably spent on business development and management than on cash loading logistics. The regulatory and compliance landscape. Here's the compliance dimension of the ATM business that responsible operators take seriously and that new entrants sometimes underestimate. ATM operation is subject to specific regulatory requirements that vary by state and that have become more stringent, as regulators have paid increasing attention to the cash handling and potential money laundering implications of ATM networks. The primary compliance requirement is registration with the relevant payment networks, Visa, MasterCard, the regional debit networks, through an ISO, independent sales organization, or directly with a processor. The ATM must be compliant with ADA accessibility requirements in certain location types. In some states, ATM operators must register with the state banking regulator, and the operator must comply with Bank Secrecy Act requirements for cash transactions, which primarily manifest as record-keeping requirements that are manageable with basic accounting software. The compliance requirements are real, but not onerous, for an operator who addresses them properly at the outset. Working with an established ATM processor, or ISO, the intermediary companies that connect independent ATM operators to the payment networks, handles the most complex compliance elements and provides the regulatory infrastructure that would be expensive and time-consuming for an individual operator to build independently. The Vault Cash programs, operating without your own capital. Here's the specific financial innovation in the ATM industry that has dramatically reduced the capital barrier to entry and that many new operators don't know exists. Vault Cash programs. A Vault Cash program is an arrangement where a financial institution or specialized Vault Cash provider supplies the cash that fills the ATMs, eliminating the operator's working capital requirement for machine loading. The operator owns the machines, manages the locations, and handles all aspects of the business except supplying the physical cash. The Vault Cash provider supplies the cash in exchange for a small fee per transaction, typically 5 cents to 15 cents per transaction, that reduces the operator's net income slightly, but eliminates the $5,000 to $10,000 per machine capital requirement. For an operator building a 20-machine route, the Vault Cash program converts a $100,000 to $200,000 working capital requirement into a per-transaction fee that costs perhaps $1,500 to $3,000 per year across the route. The trade-off is clear and for most new operators, favorable, accepting a slightly reduced net income per transaction in exchange for eliminating the working capital requirement that would otherwise limit the speed of route expansion. Vault Cash programs are offered by specialized ATM processors and by some regional banks that have established relationships with the independent ATM industry. The operator who accesses a Vault Cash program can scale their route faster, deploy capital into additional machines rather than cash inventory, and reduce the operational complexity of weekly cash loading. The portfolio of boring businesses, where the ATM fits. Here's the specific synergy between the ATM business and the other businesses on this list that makes the ATM the perfect complement to a boring business portfolio. The ATM generates cash from the same locations that the other businesses generate foot traffic. A laundromat that installs an ATM in the waiting area is serving customers who are standing in the facility for 45 to 90 minutes with nothing to do, and who may need cash for any number of purposes, including in some markets, the laundromat machines themselves if the facility hasn't fully converted to card payment. The ATM generates incremental revenue from the laundromat's existing customer traffic without any additional customer acquisition cost. A self-storage facility that installs an ATM in the lobby serves customers who are paying for storage, buying locks and boxes, and handling move-related financial transactions, and who may not have planned for the cash needs of their moving day. The ATM adds a convenience that customers genuinely appreciate and a revenue stream that the storage operator captures from their own traffic. A coin-operated car wash that installs an ATM in the customer area serves customers who are already feeding cash into machines and who may need to replenish their supply mid-wash. The car wash ATM serves a genuinely functional customer need and generates surcharge revenue from customers the car wash has already acquired. The boring business portfolio owner who places ATMs in their own facilities is simultaneously improving the customer experience of those facilities, providing a convenience that customers value, and generating incremental revenue from the same square footage that the primary business occupies. It is the most literal possible example of making existing assets work harder, and it requires no additional customer acquisition, no additional marketing, and no additional management complexity beyond the ATM loading and maintenance visits that the operator would be making anyway for a standalone route. The exit strategy: what the ATM business is worth when you sell. Here's the final dimension of the ATM business that positions it as a genuine wealth-building vehicle rather than just an income stream. The business has real asset value that can be monetized through a sale. ATM routes are bought and sold regularly in the independent deployer market, and the acquisition multiples reflect the quality and durability of the revenue. A route generating $100,000 per year in net income from contracts with established locations typically sells for $150,000 to $300,000, 1.5 to 3 times annual net income, at multiples that reflect both the recurring revenue quality and the relatively limited buyer pool for the specific asset type. The operator who builds a 20-machine route generating $100,000 annually over 3 to 4 years, investing $50,000 to $70,000 in machines plus working capital, and sells that route for $200,000 to $250,000 has generated a total return of $300,000 to $400,000 over 4 years on an initial investment of $50,000 to $70,000. This is a return profile that requires no special skills, no proprietary technology, no large team, and no exciting story. It requires a truck, a key, a willingness to handle cash, and the discipline to build and service the route consistently. The ATM business, like every other business on this list, does not reward excitement. It rewards consistency, attention to location quality, operational reliability, and the patient accumulation of assets that generate income while the owner does other things. It is, in every meaningful sense, boring, and that is exactly why it works. Conclusion. Let's take a step back and look at what these 6 businesses actually have in common, because the pattern is more instructive than any individual business, and the pattern is the real lesson of this video. The laundromat serves clean clothes, the car wash serves clean cars, the self-storage facility serves excess possessions, the vending machine serves hunger and thirst in inconvenient locations, the parking lot serves the universal need to put a car somewhere. The septic and portable toilet business serves the most fundamental human biological reality there is. Not one of these businesses requires a proprietary technology, a venture capital investment, a brand strategy, a viral marketing campaign, or a particularly original idea. Every single one of them has been serving its respective need for decades or longer. What they share is the specific combination of characteristics that this video identified at the beginning: demand that doesn't go away, markets that aren't flooded with competition because they're too unglamorous to attract it, genuine cash generation rather than revenue theater, the ability to be systematized and operated without the owner's constant personal heroism, and equity value that compounds over time. Here's the thing about boring businesses that the exciting business world never acknowledges: boring is a feature, not a bug. When a business is boring, the founder doesn't confuse passion for the business with business viability. They make clear-eyed decisions based on numbers and market reality, rather than enthusiasm and vision. The boring business owner doesn't stay in a bad location because they love the product too much to admit the location is wrong. They move to a better location because they're optimizing for profit, not passion. When a business is boring, the competition is manageable. The most ambitious, most talented, most well-funded entrepreneurs are not entering the portable toilet rental space. They're building apps. They're launching content businesses. They're starting e-commerce brands. Every person who chooses a more exciting opportunity is, from the boring business owner's perspective, a competitor who has voluntarily withdrawn from the market. The boring business owner faces competition from other operators who chose the same unglamorous path, not from the full talent distribution of ambitious people that more exciting markets attract. When a business is boring, the customers are reliable. The person who needs their septic tank pumped needs it pumped. The construction site that needs portable toilets by Monday morning needs them by Monday morning. The manufacturing worker who needs a snack at 2 a.m. during the night shift needs that snack. The need is real, the urgency is genuine, and the demand doesn't evaporate because a competitor offers a slightly cooler version of the same service. And here's the final thing that boring businesses offer that exciting ones rarely do: a good night's sleep. The owner of a well-run laundromat is not lying awake at 2 a.m. wondering whether the product market fit is right, whether the funding round will close, whether a competitor is about to release a feature that makes the product obsolete. They're sleeping because the washing machines are running, the revenue is accumulating in the payment processor, and the demand for clean clothes among the 35 million Americans without in-unit laundry is exactly what it was yesterday and exactly what it will be tomorrow. The millionaires built by boring businesses are not the millionaires who get profiled in magazine features or invited onto podcasts to share their origin story. They are the ones who, when you ask them what they do, produce a slight pause and then say, "I own a few car washes," or "I do septic work," or "I have some storage units." And then watch your expressions cycle through polite interest, mild confusion, and the dawning realization that they are considerably wealthier than their description implied. The opportunity is real, the businesses are available, the competition is limited specifically because the businesses require embracing the unglamorous in ways that most people resist. The only question that determines whether any of this changes anything for you is whether you are willing to be boring enough to get rich. The market for boring is open, the returns are waiting, and the washing machines, the car wash tunnels, the storage units, the vending routes, the parking lots, and yes, the septic trucks are all out there generating cash for the people who decided that the excitement of the business mattered less than the quality of the outcome. Go be boring. Get rich. Sleep well.